This evening, we're going to start with a public hearing before we open the meeting. And this is a public hearing to consider various amendments to the zoning code, chapter 1105, related to uses, definitions, and conditionally permitted use requirements. Also included are classifications that new buildings may be constructed in the MU zoning district 112906, a requirement for parking exempt areas to include a parking plan, 114504D, an increase to driveway width in the I-1 zoning district, 114510E, a reduction in dumpster setbacks, 115505, and adjustments to outdoor storage, bulk storage, and display regulations, 115511. Mr. Dutton?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, the bulk of these changes have to do with uses and definitions. So the first section of the zoning code is over 100 definitions of different uses and other items. There was a lot of inconsistency in this section, so it's a lot of cleanup, deleting the definitions that were never used, having consistency throughout the code of what things are called. In addition, every zoning district has a different use table of permitted and conditionally permitted uses. Those were also not the same throughout, so this kind of goes through and cleans that up and makes things consistent. The other sections that were noted in there regarding the MU district 112906, there's kind of some conflicting language in there which can be read to say that no new buildings can be built in that district, which is not, I don't think, what we want or is even possible. 1145.04D, so there are areas of our downtown which are exempt from providing off-street parking. What this does is requires a new use to provide a plan of what that parking will be. It doesn't necessarily require a minimum number of spaces. It just requires that use to show how they're going to address parking. 114510E, that's an increase in a driveway width in the I-1 industrial district. That was a recommendation of the Planning Commission that was incorporated into the code. 1155.05 is dumpster setbacks. We had a number of variances regarding dumpsters in commercial districts, which I believe were 15 feet, so that's quite far from the property line, so this reduces that. And finally, 1155.11, which just has some clarifications regarding outdoor storage and bulk storage. The Planning Commission heard these amendments at their September 14th meeting and recommended approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody that wishes to speak in favor of the amendments? Anybody that wishes to speak in opposition of the amendments? The public hearing is closed. At this time, I'd like to call the November 13th, 2023 council meeting to order. If you please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Coin.
Here.
Hare. Here. Hazeltine.
Present.
Lamb.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Shields.
Here.
Simpson.
Here.
Reading of the minutes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting of October 23rd, 2023, as prepared and submitted by the clerk, be approved.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Will the clerk please call the roll on the approval of the minutes?
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes. Reports of standing committees. The Finance Committee met prior to council this evening, and we'll meet again after Thanksgiving, and we have 2 more meetings before the end of the year. Health, Safety, and Sanitation, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled. The only thing I have to report is the LST advisory meeting is scheduled for this Thursday, and the mayor and I will be attending that. So thank you.
Thank you. Public Properties, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening and no meeting scheduled.
Thank you. Special Legislation, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report, nothing to report, no meeting scheduled.
Streets and Sidewalks, Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting schedule and nothing to report.
Water and Utilities, Ms. Hazeltine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing new to report and no meeting scheduled.
Emerging Technologies, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled and no report.
Thank you. Requests for council action. We have several for the Finance Committee. We have 23-215, Management Agreement, Operation Lease and Settlement Agreement for the airport. 23-216, budget amendments. 23-217, rollover outstanding advances. 23-218, rollover outstanding advances for the TIF fund. 23-219, fund transfer request. 23-220, fund advance request. 23-221, MOU with County EMA Progress Drive Water Tower for the police. 23-222, MOU for Ramsey County Public Transit. 23-223, grant application, building demolition, Ohio Department of Development. 23-224, purchase 3 2023 Ford Explorers for the police. 23-225, job creation grant payment, Carlisle Brake and Friction. 23-226, increase PO 23-1266, Design to Wellness MCRC. 23-227, agreement with Cleveland Clinic Health and Fitness MCRC. 23-228, workout room upgrade. 23-229, expenditure for Koppenberg Enterprises Cemetery. 23-230, increase PO 23-1671 HSH Construction Granger Road emergency repairs. Reports of municipal officers, Mayor Hamwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The election was held last Tuesday, November 7th. I'd like to congratulate re-elected Council President John Coyne, Ward Council members Jim Shields and Denny Simpson, and Council at Large-elect Natalie DeSalvo. Unofficial election results show the deer culling archery program was passed by the voters. We will await the formal certification of the election by the Medina County Board of Elections and then share the application and specific location approval processes with interested parties. Issue 15, the Human Services Levy that supports the Medina County Office of Older Adults, the Medina County Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board, and the Medina County Job and Family Services also passed, and I'd like to thank the voters for their support for those much-needed services. And then the 39th Annual Candlelight Walk activities are posted at the Main Street Medina website, www.mainstreetmedina.com. The tree and downtown lighting ceremony will be this coming Friday, November 17th at 7 p.m. Then on Saturday, November 18th at 5:30 p.m., the Parade of Lights will leave the Medina High School, proceed south on Spring Grove to Liberty, west on Liberty to Court, south on Court to Washington, and east on Washington. Following the parade, and once the clear zone is established and safe, the fireworks will be displayed on the square, weather permitting. And then, if I may, I have some notes from Nino as well, who was unable to be here tonight from the Service Department. And he wanted to apologize for the late asphalt paving activity. Turned out with the warmer weather that's unusual for November and availability of our contractor, they had openings in their schedule. So they did a good deal of work on East Friendship Street from North Court Street east, several different patching projects on Lafayette Road, and several different patching projects on North Court Street. The leaf season is in full swing. We have all three trucks out. All trucks are currently in the western two quadrants of the city. And there's a truck in the northwest, a truck in the southwest, and then the third truck floats between the two. If the northwest gets done first, which is Ward 1, then all three trucks will go down to Ward 4 to finish it up, which is our second round. And then we'll repeat the same rotation with Wards 2 and 3, and then 1 and 4. We're working overtime every day, Monday through Friday, as well as on Saturdays, and we'll continue until the leaves are all picked up unless the inclement weather stops our efforts. The street department crew is also preparing the square and the lights and decorations for the candlelight walk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Durham, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Want to give my congratulations to the newly elected and re-elected officials. We in the Finance Department look forward to working with all of you. And there are, because we're coming up at the end of the year, there's a slew of things that originated with finance that are to do with that I'll talk about when we get there on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Huber, Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshall, Economic Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Chief Kinney, Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Gladys, Building Official.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Worley, Parks and Recreation Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple updates. Just a reminder to the public that the Memorial Dog Park will close on November 20th. The Ray Mallard Dog Park is open, and we've got some great comments from the community regarding its increased size and improved condition. So we're thankful for that. Couple updates from the rec center. Our leisure pool is scheduled to open December 2nd. We're looking forward to that opening, and we're going to be having a pool party that's long overdue on December 2nd. In addition to that, our fitness room addition at the rec center will be substantially complete this Wednesday. We're hopeful to get our equipment moved and open that to the public the first week or two of December. Lastly, I wanted to thank Paula Banks. One of the mayor's appointments down there is for a replacement on the Cemetery Commission. Paula served the Cemetery Commission for many years, and we appreciate her service.
Thank you, Chief Walters, Fire
Thank you,
Department.
Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Dutton, Planning and Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you. Confirmation of mayor's appointments, we have two. If there's no objection, I'd do both at the same time. Hearing none, we have Jeannie Pritchard, Cemetery Commissioner, for a term expiring 12/31/27, and Teresa Laffey, Cemetery Commission, term expiring 12/31/24, replacing Paula Banks.
Move to confirm the mayor's appointments.
Second?
Any discussion on the confirmation of the mayor's appointments? Will the clerk please call the roll on the confirmation of the mayor's appointments?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Notices, communications, petitions, there's none. Unfinished business, there's none. Introduction of visitors. Members of the public will be permitted the opportunity to speak on any issue or concern which pertains to the city during a portion of the council agenda devoted to introduction of visitors. All comments shall be directed to the chair, and a reasonable time limit of approximately 5 minutes will be imposed. If there's a group, please appoint a spokesperson. Speakers should approach the rear microphone and state their name and address so it can be entered into the minutes. Members of the public will be afforded the opportunity to comment on other portions of the meeting as determined by the chair or by a vote of the majority of council members present. At this time, is there anybody that wishes to address council at this time? Somebody? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. Introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules and requiring 3 readings on the following ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 177-23, ordinance 178-23, 179-23, 180-23, 181-23, 182-23, 83-23, 84-23, 85-23, 86-23, 87-23, 88-23, and Resolution 189-23.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
I will make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of tonight's ordinances and resolutions.
Second?
Any discussion on the motion to suspend the rules and requiring 3 readings? Will the clerk please call the roll on the motion?
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Resolution 177-23, a resolution authorizing the application and acceptance of reimbursements from the Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant for the purchase of body armor for the Medina Police Department.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields?
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause?
Discussion on the resolution and emergency clause. Chief Kinney.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our annual grant for our body armor. The emergency clause is requested because the due date is passed. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Resolution 177-23 passes 7-0. Oops. Emergency clause passes. Sorry.
The clerk please call the roll on the resolution.
Okay. Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Emergency clause passes 7-0. I'm sorry. The resolution 177-23 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 17823, an ordinance authorizing the payment to Green Home Solutions for the private home rehabilitation at 137 Oakley Drive, Brunswick, as part of the fiscal year 22 CHIP grant program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields?
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the ordinance and emergency clause. Mr. Dutton?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the first of 4 ordinances regarding our CHIP program. This is 137 Oakley Drive in Brunswick. The cost is $46,085. It includes new front porch, replacement windows, doors, hot water heater, sump pump, and miscellaneous plumbing and electric work. The emergency clause is requested as the contractor is ready to begin the project. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the emergency clause and/or the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the emergency clause?
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Emergency clause passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Ordinance 178-23 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 17923, an ordinance authorizing the payment to Green Home Solutions for the private home rehabilitation at 1244 Hadcock Road, Brunswick, as part of the fiscal year 22 CHIP grant program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields?
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the ordinance and emergency clause. Mr. Dutton?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a PO for $71,925 at 1244 Hadcock Road in Brunswick to Green Home Solutions. The project includes new roof, replacement windows and doors. There's some lead abatement in this project, hot water heater, bathroom shower, natural gas boiler, and updated electrical throughout. And again, the emergency clause is requested as the contractor is ready to begin. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the ordinance and/or the emergency clause? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Simpson.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Emergency clause passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Ordinance 179-23 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 18023, an ordinance amending ordinance number 13423 passed September 11th, 2023, relative to the expenditure to the Green Home Solutions for home rehabilitation work at 1495 McKinley Avenue, Brunswick.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields?
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the ordinance. Mr. Dutton?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is another purchase order to Green Home Solutions at 1495 McKinley in Brunswick. The original ordinance was for $65,545. There was additional work that was identified for $1,125 for new interior doors and a basement drain pipe. So the request has increased the PO to $66,670. Emergency clause is requested as the project is already underway and we'd like to get it completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the emergency clause and/or the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Emergency clause passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Ordinance 180-23 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 18123, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 20321, passed September 13th, 2021, and replacing section 16113 of the codified ordinances of the City of Medina, Ohio, relative to the allocation of the income tax funds.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a minor adjustment to the income tax, the allocation of the portion of the income tax that council has the authority to allocate.
Thank you. And the allocation has been modified as the income tax collections in the City of Medina, through the efforts of the Economic Development Group and the administration, have increased up to about $20 million of the income tax that's being collected in the City of Medina, of which about $15 million is subject to this ordinance that allocated through action of council and the percentages as outlined in the ordinance, which is doing pretty well. So things are going pretty well, and the reallocation is just because of the things that may happen in the future, as the council has discussed, with respect to the 301 capital account, the computers accounts, the unanticipated capital account, additional money being allocated to those various accounts just because the things are changing, future's changing, AI is coming, and we need to plan ahead for the various things that we need to occur. So is there any further discussion on the allocation of the income tax? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Ordinance 18123 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 18223, an ordinance authorizing an increased expenditure to Paul Davis Restoration for the fiscal year 22 chip rehabilitation at 30 Circle Drive.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the ordinance and emergency clause. Mr. Dutton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a chip project at 30 Circle Drive. The request is to increase the PO to Paul Davis Restoration. It's regarding mold remediation. There was an additional mold found in the home. So the request is to increase the PO by $19,540 to a total of $44,789.08. Emergency clause is requested as the project is already underway, and this step needs to be completed before we can do the HVAC work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on emergency clause and/or the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of emergency clause?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Emergency clause passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Ordinance 18223 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 18323, an ordinance amending the pavilion rental fees for the Parks and Recreation Department.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Worley.
Thank you, Mr. President. This request amends our rental fees, particularly the ones that pertain to the gazebo and the Uptown Park. We're adding a new fee to our permit, charging for additional spider boxes that are oftentimes requested. So you can pull a permit. You'll get the first 3 spider boxes at no charge, but any additional spider boxes would be $25 per location. This new fee does not and will not affect City of Medina sponsored events like Farmers Market, things of that nature. So we're adding that to the permit moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Ordinance 18323 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 18423, an ordinance amending ordinance number 22122, passed December 12th, 2022, amendments to the 23 budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is, as I mentioned, things coming up as we close in on the end of the year. That's a pretty extensive appropriation adjustment. This is to square things away through the end of the year.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Ordinance 18423 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 18523, an ordinance authorizing the finance director to roll over certain outstanding advances.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are advances mostly for grants, and we have to roll them over annually to show that we intend to repay them.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Ordinance 18523 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 18623, an ordinance authorizing the finance director to roll over certain outstanding advances related to the TIFT fund.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is another advance, but it's not for a grant. It's for the TIF project, so we broke it out so we could show you what's going on here. As this project begins to collect revenue, which it's only collecting a little bit right now, this will be paid off over time.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Ordinance 186-23 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 187-23, an ordinance authorizing the finance director to make certain fund transfers.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was previously an advance, but we have not collected the money because these are uncollectible, so we're making this into a transfer. This is to the Special Assessment Projects Fund. That's basically weeds and things like that.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Ordinance 187-23 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 188-23, an ordinance authorizing the finance director to make certain fund advances.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are new advances.
Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Ordinance 188-23 passes 7-0.
Resolution 189-23, a resolution authorizing the filing of an application for grant assistance from the Ohio Department of Development for a building demolition site revitalization grant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes emergency clause.
Discussion on the resolution and emergency clause. Mrs. Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to authorize the mayor to apply for an Ohio Department of Development Building Demolition Site Revitalization Grant to demo the Tots House and accessory structures located at the Medina Municipal Airport and execute any and all paperwork pertaining to the grant. If the grant is approved, the city will need to enter into a subrecipient grant agreement with the Medina County Port Authority, as the county commissioners have appointed them as the lead entity for program funding. Budget estimates for the project are roughly at $40,000. However, we're still working on getting the necessary quotes for the project. The state of Ohio has just released the second round of funding for this program. However, there are some remaining funds from the first round of funding, so we're respectfully requesting to submit the grant application with the flexibility to apply for both rounds of funding to give us the best chance of the grant award. We are also making this request subject to the law director's approval, as Mr. Huber will need to review the subrecipient grant agreement. The emergency clause has been requested as the Port Authority has given us a short turnaround time on the applications, which are due on November 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shields, does the motion include the subject to the law director's approval?
Correct. So I will add that in, and subject to final approval of the law director.
And Mr. Simpson, second is for that also?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the emergency clause? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Emergency passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Resolution 189-23 passes 7-0.
Council comments. Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to honor all of our veterans that celebrated Veterans Day. We owe a debt of gratitude to everyone that has served, and a lot of them have given the ultimate sacrifice. And I also want to thank Mr. Lamb for serving. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge and say how much I appreciate the candidates that ran for election this past Tuesday, well, past several months. Mr. Williams, Mr. Hutchinson, and Mr. Salega. I know you had a disappointing Tuesday evening, but you should be proud of the campaigns that you ran. And as I told Mark, save your signs, you know.
Absolutely.
I'm grateful for the people that supported me during this election, and I will do my best to serve everyone for this term. And talking about the veterans, and I will be short here. Well, you know that's not true. I would like everybody, you know, if you have time, to either send a letter or an email to our United States Senators from Ohio J.D. Vance or Sheriff Brown, and request them to do everything they can legally in the Senate powers to get the military candidates for higher office to get those approved. I think everybody's aware that, what's going on all around our world, that the men and women that are putting themselves in harm's way need that leadership more than ever. So I encourage you to do that. It's a shame that a senator from Alabama is holding up those appointments, so, for whatever reason. So if you have time, please shoot off a letter or an email. Other than that, remember to be kind to everyone and pray for the people of Israel and Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hare?
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody who came out to vote. I had the opportunity to work at the polling place at the fairgrounds last Tuesday, and I was quite pleased at the turnout that we had. We were busy all day, and as those of you who have worked at the polling locations know, it's a long day. You have to be there before 5:30, and we had a sizable number of people who came to work the polls, and so I actually got home early. I got home by 8 p.m., so I was happy about that. But I also want to thank the people who came out to vote. It's important. It's our right. This is our democracy, and we need to get out and vote. And the people have spoken. And quite frankly, I'm glad the election is over. We can now pick up all our signs and our community will be cleaner. But as a council member, and I'm sure members of the administration and my fellow council members can agree, we look forward to continuing the work that we are doing to perform this city's business. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hazeltine?
Firstly, I would like to acknowledge that the fact that this is Men's Mental Health Month. A lot of you know that I speak out often about my own mental health and my journey with that, and I just want to encourage the men out there to break the stigma. It's crap. So, secondly, congratulations to my colleagues on council and our incoming new councilwoman. More women is always good. And I would like to thank all of the volunteers that came out yesterday and Saturday to decorate the square. So I took some pictures of all of our hardworking community members decorating the square. You can see George is up there on the ladder. I just really have fun doing it every year, and I really appreciate everybody that comes out to make the square look so great.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Mr. Rose?
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, thank you to all the veterans. As I've said many, many times, and I'll continue to say it, if it wasn't for their sacrifice and the work that they did to protect our democracy, we wouldn't be allowed to do what we're doing here. So thank you all for your contributions and allowing the United States to continue moving forward. Congratulations to all those who were elected this week, this past week on the election day. I know it was a long, hard-fought campaign, but kept it above board, so that was good. Thank you. And a special thank you to Nathan Case, Bill Kuhar, Erica Graffin, and Jennifer Rose for getting the word out on issue 17 and keeping the word out and keeping the facts so that the people knew what they were voting for and how things were meant to be in this ordinance. Thank you all.
Thank you. Any other council comments? I just have, you want to?
No, go ahead.
I just have one about issue 17. I just want to, reiterate that, even though that there's going to be bow hunting permitted in the city limits, that issue 17 alone and the ordinance, adoption of the ordinance will not solve the problem of deer. Just so nobody gets an idea that now that hunters are out in the city, the deer problem is solved. You just remember that there are probably 200 to 300 new fawns that are born every year in the city, and that number is going to keep increasing. This is just going to be one tool to help manage the number of deer that we have in our city. We are still going to have a lot of deer in our city, that we are going to have, you know, a collaborative effort of the residents to, you know, plant the correct plants, not feed the deer, do all the things that we need to do to help, you know, keep the control of the population down. And it's going to be a challenge in the coming years because the deer are still going to be there, and we're going to have to keep managing them, you know, going forward, because there's a lot of deer, and there's the number of deer are just going to continue to increase. So I don't want people to think that just by adopting this ordinance, it's going to solve the problem, because the problem is always going to be there, and we're going to have to keep working at developing different tools to manage the number of deer that we have in our city. So with that, the meeting is adjourned.